Leave my sanity unbroken. May your films torment me no more. Take thy franchise from out mine heart, and forbid thy fans to comment more. Quoth the Colin, nevermore. If Fallen Kingdom was the lanky middle child of Colin's beloved trilogy, this one is the physically and mentally disabled one that the parents tried to drown in a river, but failed and accidentally made it even more f***ed up. Words cannot express how much I was dreading the rewatch of this abomination. I barely made it through my first viewing in cinemas, where the act of not watching the movie anymore wasn't as easy as the click of a remote like at home, but rather I'd actually have to physically get up and leave. The only reason I stayed is so I could make a video on how shit it was, and I like to be thorough in my hatred, so I wasn't going to shit on a movie that I didn't even watch all the way through. Not that I expected the movie to suddenly become a masterpiece, I knew it could only get worse. Also, my girlfriend was literally shaking me and borderline crying, begging me to leave, so I think I deserve a fucking award for putting up with this shit. The video I made on it pissed a lot of people off, which not only made me very happy, but opened my eyes to the existence of people who valiantly defend this franchise despite its incomprehensible shittiness. Also, as a side note, I thought I sounded super pissed off at the time of making it, but when you compare it to any of my more recent videos, I sound almost bored. Also, the mic quality was like molten chihuahua diarrhea, and I'd like to apologize to anyone whose ears I may have violated. Thankfully, I'm not alone in my hatred of Dominion. I'm serious when I say there are some people who liked the first two Jurassic Worlds but fucking hate this one. Do you know how bad you have to cream pie the canine to get some of the most hyper-fixated and dedicated fans of this franchise to not like your movie? Colin really is one of the greatest minds of our time. That being said, there is still a staggering number of avid Jurassic World lovers that this video will likely anger, and if any are watching, are likely in the process of writing expansive novellas in the comment section for me to not read. And if I do, I'll probably laugh and screenshot it to put it in another video. Dominion actually breaks new ground for this franchise, with literally every single aspect being fucking terrible in some way. The plot is dog shit, the characters are awful and straight up superheroes at times, the pacing is outrageous, the CGI sometimes causes retinal bleeding, the dinosaurs are somehow more inaccurate than the last movie. I could go on forever, but I have the rest of the video to do that, and I already know this is going to be the longest one I've made so far. Which reminds me, I do apologize if this video took ages to make. If you're watching my videos as they come out, you'll know I was making this as well as part 2 at the same time with a week break in between the two, and as much as I'd like to be able to, I can't crank these videos out in under a week. I'll try to get back to my extremely inconsistent upload schedule after this bullshit is done. That is if I survive this ordeal, of course. Anyway, as usual, I do not fucking care about the lore of these movies that give bullshit reasons as to why the dinosaurs depicted look different to their real life counterparts. It's never stated in the movies, at least as far as my attention span can tell, and it's just a shitty cover-up for the original Jurassic Park's dinosaur depictions that were accurate to science at the time of making that movie. Just look at the Spinosaurus that was accurate in 2001 and the Carnotaurus from last movie that's somewhat accurate to current day knowledge. And don't even get me started on the supersizing of everything for spectacle. Also, as usual, this is Universal Studios we're dealing with here. If they flagged my iceberg video because I used a few seconds of their precious Dominion trailer, I guarantee they'll be thoroughly conducting a cavity search on me using nothing but rusty ice picks when I essentially re-edit the actual movie. So as usual, expect cringe green screens and weird graphics as I try and avoid being demonetized. Those who watched the last video will know that this is a joke. I am poor and make no money from these videos anyway. Those who did not watch the previous video, that's okay. I'll wait. We'll start things off a little differently to last time by talking about the trailer. Holy shit, it's a complete lie. There's a half-second shot of a locust swarm on a farm, and the rest is ripped from the first few minutes of the movie, that weird orange place they go to, and the dinosaur forest bit at the end. There's no implied plot like a normal trailer, just clips of dinosaurs that imply there'll be more interesting stuff in the full movie, and nostalgia bait with the original cast, so they can really maximize the audience by getting the oldies in too. There's also the usual dramatic dialogue over the clips that means absolutely nothing and sounds way more weighty and important than it actually is. Alright, short segment done. Now onto the plot. I can't believe I've gone this long without properly mentioning the fucking locust plot, because holy shit, it's unbelievable. A movie called Jurassic World that has a genuinely interesting concept of dinosaurs in human society somehow decides to ignore the vast amount of potential stories that concept could breed, and instead decides to be about giant locusts causing a worldwide famine, with a few dinosaurs sprinkled in every now and then. Does anyone remember the supposed first few minutes clips that went around the internet before this thing came out? There was two if I remember correctly. One was the T-Rex fucking up that drive-in theater, and the other was the Giganotosaurus killing a T-Rex back in dinosaur times. This was actually super cool at the time, and remember, I'd already watched Fallen Kingdom by now, meaning I felt nothing but contempt for the franchise, but these clips sparked some of that initial autistic glee I had while watching the first Jurassic World. I also thought the Giga killing the T-Rex was a neat way to show that this dinosaur is a new threat like nothing we've ever seen before, but then you watch the fucking movie and neither of those clips are there. What, was a 2.5 hour runtime too fucking long? There's a good hour you can chop out of this movie and fuck all will change. You're telling me that audiences would rather see 69 fucking locust scenes instead of dinosaurs fighting or fucking around in human society? Colin? And yes, I'm going to be blaming Colin for fucking everything, because he did fucking everything. He solo directed, co-wrote the screenplay with some bitch named Emily, and co-wrote the script with some cunt named Derek. Emily's photo on Wikipedia is this, which told me all I needed to know, honestly. She's only ever involved in absolute shit, and her only other writing credit is, oh no. And if you thought that was bad, Derek is here to gently place his sweaty nutsack on your forehead in such a way that you can feel his irregular heartbeat, with such hits as Monster Trucks 2016, Jurassic World 1 and 2, Detective Pikachu, and Rise of Skywalker. He's also apparently writing an upcoming film adaptation of the Zelda franchise, so we can expect that to be a fucking abortion too. I'm not sure if I can even explain the plot to you, so I'm just gonna paraphrase a plot summary I found online. Set 4 years after the events of the last movie, dinosaurs run free around the Earth. Like, the entire Earth. How the— No. Save it for the nitpicks. Save for the nitpicks. A company called Biosyn has established a dinosaur reserve somewhere in Italy and is studying dinosaurs for pharmacological uses, also known as the study of creating drugs and medications. Through this, they make gigantic locusts that eat all the crops in the US that aren't made by Biosyn. As awful as that is, it's probably the smartest plan a villain has had in these movies, really cornering the market. Today's generation could never. Claire and Owen live in Owen's homo hut he built by hand in the fucking woods. Together, they protect Maisie from fucking mercenaries trying to take her for research or whatever. But because movie and because Maisie is stupid, she somehow gets fucking captured along with Blue's baby that also somehow exists and thus begins the movie. The gang head to the orange place I mentioned before for some epic dinosaur black market bullshit before finding out Maisie isn't even in the orange place but in the Biosyn place, and they find a pilot willing to risk it all for people she just met. Together with the help of the original trio, they rescue Maisie and Blue's baby, stop the locust swarms, and let the bad guy die an extremely brutal death. Then they all live happily ever after, despite the fact that the global ecosystems would collapse from the introduction of dinosaurs, but whatever. Also, dinosaurs just assimilate into these modern ecosystems and humans are just forced to live with it, which harshly contradicts the themes of the original movies. You know, the ones about the dangers of technological advancement in genetic research and the dangers it could bring. The Lost World had a segment where one fucking T-Rex got loose in San Diego and it was a fucking disaster. Now we as the audience are supposed to see it as a good thing. For fuck's sake. At least this one isn't like 3 movies in one. It's more of a look at our budget globe-trotting adventure type of thing with an overarching insect apocalypse. Colin's gone on record saying he's known the ending to this franchise from the very first Jurassic World, but I just want to know why he lied, because there's no way he planned for giant locusts to be the ending of his beloved dinosaur trilogy. Although I can believe he planned for the coexistence of humans, animals, and dinosaurs we see at the end. As I said, one of the greatest minds of our time. The characters. There are a lot of fucking characters in this one, so let me break them down for you.
Let me break it down for you, Mark.
Claire and Owen are essentially the same character in this one. They were demoted from having a stake in their own personal motivations in the last movie to just being overprotective parents, and when their child goes missing, they become frantic and desperate to get her back. They also seemingly have superpowers they can turn on and off whenever the plot requires it. These powers range from enhanced agility to superhuman strength, and I'm not talking about running away from T-Rexes and heels, I'm talking full-on parkour on rooftops and wrangling multi-ton dinosaurs. And don't even get me started on the plot armor. Also, neither Bryce Dallas Howard or Chris Pratt seem like they want to be in these fucking movies anymore. The acting was never amazing in the previous movies, but it's noticeably bad in some places here. But I'll expand on more of that later. Speaking of bad acting, we're going to talk about the supposed daughter, Maisie. Maisie honestly pisses me off in this movie. She's like 14 years old or something and has a stereotypical teenage rebellion storyline where all she wants to do is live her life and get away from her parents, who she sees as overprotective. A pretty common and done to death plot point, but this is a blockbuster movie after all. It's to be expected. The problem comes down to the fact that Claire and Owen are completely justified in being protective of her. There are literally mercenaries and evil corporations that want to kidnap and perform experiments on her. Not to mention Claire and Owen don't have any legal claim to her because they essentially just stole some old dude's granddaughter in the last movie. Let's see, who else is there? Oh, there's a new character, Kayla. She's black and a criminal. Nice one, Colin. She's a pilot that transports dinosaur cargo, and the only reason she's a criminal is so she can meet Claire at the black market. But if she was just a neutral cargo transporter, the plot wouldn't change a whole lot and would make her sudden change to a hero make more sense. She literally gets shown a picture of Maisie after seeing her be led to a car, then steals a random vehicle to help Claire escape a raptor. And just like that, she's one of the protagonists, and flies the not parents, Claire and Owen, to the Biosyn facility and almost gets them both killed. Franklin had an almost complete 180 from the last movie. He went from being some annoying prick who screams like a child and freaks out about everything to being this grizzled, stern, and calculated CIA agent. Somehow. How did this cunt start working at the CIA? He's a borderline vigilante criminal at the beginning of the movie when he works with Claire to rescue the dinosaurs. I say it's almost a complete 180 because he's still fucking annoying. But let's be honest, pretty much everyone in this franchise is annoying. They really should have just made a new character of how different he is. Zia is also here. She doesn't do a whole lot. Same with Henry Wu. His role is to feel bad about ruining people's lives and to yap to Maisie about boring clone things. He also worked with the villain, Dr. Lewis Dogson. He's a returning character from the original trilogy, and you wouldn't be able to tell because he looks completely fucking different. He's the leader of Biosyn and wants to do that market cornering with the crops I mentioned earlier. He's not threatening, he's not cool, he's just an evil businessman, and then he fucking dies. But he's not the only returning character. We also see the return of the entire original trio, Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, and Ian Malcolm. Ian was in the last movie, sure, but he actually has a role in the plot here instead of just being a serial yapper at a court hearing. His role isn't too important though. He literally just invites Ellie to the Biosyn facility to tell her shit she already knows, and then does nothing else of consequence for the rest of the movie. I don't know if Alan and Ellie's characters are any different to how they are in the original trilogy, but I don't actually mind them here. Sure, they're kind of forced into the plot for fan service, but I don't mind the execution. Plus, both actors are giving some decent performances and have good chemistry together. The scenes are some of the best in the movie. The same goes for Ian's actor too, Jeff Goldblum. He's not bad either. Ellie works for some random company and is investigating the giant locust swarms, and Alan is a paleontologist who wants to fuck Ellie, I guess. That's about the extent of their motivations. They're mainly just here to be put in the trailer. Alright, I think that's everyone that matters. Now it's time to meticulously rip apart everything that pisses me off in this movie, and I hope you all dilated at least 3 days before, because this is going to be a vile anal dicking. So the movie starts with dramatic footage of fishermen, because every good movie starts with dramatic fishing montages. I'm serious when I say it's dramatic too, like why are there so many slow-mo shots of this fucking cage? Well, they're crab fishing in the Bering Sea, and it wouldn't be a video where I nitpick the fuck out of things if I didn't meticulously research the most stupid bullshit to find anything wrong with the movie. It turns out this kind of fishing is very common in the Bering Sea, and the crabs they caught are accurate too. They're called snow crabs, which thrive in the chilly waters in these areas. What isn't accurate, however, is the presence of a fucking mosasaur in these waters that attacks the cage of crabs and capsizes the fishing boat. Why the fuck are they accurate with their crab fishing but not their dinosaurs in a franchise called Jurassic World? Should've just called it Crustacean World instead. Ignoring the fact that the mosasaur is way oversized, why did it bother going for the cage and not the boat instead? If it's attacking the cage, we can assume it doesn't care about eating non-edibles as long as food is in there somewhere. Better yet, why doesn't it just eat a whale or something? Arctic belugas and bowhead whales migrate seasonally through this area, spending most of their time here in winter. And given it's snowing for the parts of the movie set in North America, we can assume that it is winter. Are all whale populations gone because of the mosasaur? How is this coexisting? How is this supposed to be seen as a good thing? God, we're not even 1 fucking minute in. We have 145 left to go. I can't keep going at this pace or I will literally die. So the mosasaur kills everyone on board the boat, which leads horribly into a fucking now this montage / news report that's here to explain why dinosaurs are all over the planet to the audience who either forgot or didn't watch the last movie. My girlfriend was one of those people who didn't see Fallen Kingdom, and she understood the concept and setup of the movie perfectly because of this news report thing. That's not to say it's any good, because it really just proves that Fallen Kingdom is a complete waste of time if anything else. This bit has been ripped apart by everyone online by now, and for good reason too. And now it's my turn, so here we go. This little girl's being terrorized by what I assume to be a Compsognathus, and whoever is videoing is acting like it's funny. Didn't a little girl around the same age get eaten alive by these things in a previous Jurassic Park movie? Now it's funny, I guess. Why are these Stegosauruses walking this way? It's like they just walked from up this steep ass cliff. Also, how did the driver not see these massive animals on the road? You could argue they came from within the tunnel, but surely there'd be traffic if that was the case. It doesn't look like it's a super remote road. This pterodactyl catches a dove midair at a wedding instead of going for any of the people. We know that they are definitely capable and willing to do this because of the massacre in the first Jurassic World. Did anyone even think twice about any of these clips? Definitely not. Just turn your brain off and consume the product. I'm also pretty sure that some of these videos are ripped from the real life internet and Colin just decided to put some CGI dinosaurs over them and call it a day. But don't worry about that. It's time to introduce the villain and his corporation. Remember guys, corporation bad. Boo corporation. But consume product, but boo corporation. I don't know, this guy just yaps about some bullshit and the reporter talks about how they can use the dinosaurs for pharmaceutical bullshit. But like, why? Don't they have all the DNA they used to make them in the fucking lab still? Why bother capturing them? Also, I can't stand these stupid graphics and text effects they use. They look like something I would have come up with using iMovie in year 8. This bit wraps up with a horribly CGI'd Packy and a Quetzalcoatlus in New York City. This is fucked for 2 reasons. One, when the fuck did we see these in the Jurassic World theme park or even the fucking mansion garage from last movie, therefore how were they released? How the fuck did they get here? Did they just spawn? And 2, a Quetzalcoatlus in New York would be fucking devastating. They grew as tall as giraffes and could swallow people whole, but, you know, cut to title card. Or rather, just card. There's no title. It's just the logo. Like, yeah, this is the 3rd Jurassic World movie. What the fuck do you want from us? We then get a preview of the upcoming GTA heist that still won't be as good as Cayo Perico, and it turns out to be Girl Boss and Claire infiltrating an illegal dinosaur farm. And a dramatic reveal of Claire shows she decided to get some work done on her face in the middle of this global catastrophe. Nice work. Let's hope no other actresses do the same thing ever. That would be awful. Why does she even spend thousands of dollars on her face when the real problem with her head can be fixed with some bleach and a box of hair dye? At least they decided to use animatronics here. I really don't think I could have handled another special effect. Claire and Zia decide to rescue a single Triceratops baby from the facility because it's dying or something. And it's just fucking screaming the whole time. Weren't they trying to be sneaky before? Well, even if they were, their escape van fucking smashes through a gate to help get them out, and it's revealed that the worst character in this franchise is in the back. When watching this in cinemas for the first time, I genuinely cried out in agony at the sight of his fucking head. Bucket is surprised to see they have a baby dinosaur with them, which implies he didn't know they had it. So then why the fuck did he ram through the fence gate and risk attracting a fuck ton of attention if he just thought it was Claire and Zia, who had already gotten into the facility without the need for a Toyota battering ram? They could have easily snuck back out to the van undetected. Did they radio in beforehand saying they needed to be bailed out? If so, why didn't they tell fuckhead about their dinosaur hostage? Also, if Franklin was driving, how the fuck did he get from the driver's seat to the back in like half a second? So they lift the baby into the back of the white van like amateurs. Personally, I would have just offered it lollies and puppies and said not to tell their parents. And the facility guards suddenly realize that some dickheads are making a fuck ton of noise near the exit and run towards them. I was really hoping that the baby dino would weigh like a ton or something in reality, but they only weighed around 30 kilos or 70 pounds at this size. So it actually kind of makes sense that they can lift it. For some reason, Claire takes the wheel instead of Franklin, despite him being the designated driver, and she decides to drive through a gate and into the most dangerous field she could possibly find. Colin probably told her he needed something interesting to happen. See, if she'd let Franklin drive, not only would they be able to get away quicker, thus avoiding the bad guy cars, which by the way got there shockingly quickly, but it also would have resulted in not ending up in this fucking death field. This field contains a bunch of assorted ceratopses that are just able to roam free, with the only thing stopping them from escaping being a fence a car can ram through with ease. So I'm confused as to how any of them are still here. And if you want to say electric fences, they didn't work in previous movies a lot of the time. Also, this is a gigantic outdoor plot of land. Did the authorities really not know about this place? Anyway, of course, like every dinosaur in this fucking franchise, they become hyper aggressive at the sight of anything that moves and start attacking all the vehicles. vehicles, sometimes directly head on, and they're completely unharmed while the vehicles come to a violent stop and some even roll a few times. This is stupid. So the max speed of Triceratops is around 50 kilometers or 30 miles an hour, and I'm going to be generous and assume these cars are driving around the same speed, which, and remember, we're being generous, would mean the dinosaurs and the vehicles are colliding at a force equivalent to ramming a wall at 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour, and they're completely fine. Every bone in their skulls would be shattered. Sure, their cars would be fucked too, but there's no way the dinosaurs would be any better. Also, if they can fuck up the cars this bad, why haven't they destroyed the fence? Why aren't they chained up like the babies? Why are the babies even chained and caged if they're small enough to be lifted by 2 people? But before any of the dinosaur head action, wait a minute, but before any of the dinosaur collisions, the fuckheads in the back of the van open the back doors, making it really easy for them to be gunned down like the rabid animals that they are. They even have the untempered gusto to yell at Claire about it and not even bother trying to close them. But of course, plot armor prevails and they escape unharmed. So after risking everyone's lives to essentially dino nap a baby Triceratops, Claire decides to try her luck at recreating a shot from Breaking Bad before planning to raid the same dinosaur breeding farm again, despite their near-death experiences and the fact that security would be extra tight now. Zia's hair looks awful and Franklin announces that he's got a real job instead of whatever this is. He probably just got the call saying he got the part in Dungeons & Dragons. You know what's sad? I had to look up Justice Smith's filmography for that joke, which upsets me not only because the joke wasn't funny, but also because it said he was in the 2021 Cinderella. No, not that one, but this one with James Corden.
Where's my tail? I can't balance without my tail.
I guarantee this is the first time you've ever heard of it, so take my warning. Avoid this movie at all costs. Also, it's been like 4 years since the last movie and he's just now finding a real job. I'm going to assume they've been doing this for at least a year or two, so why is he just now aspiring to venture for pastures new? Nerd. He accuses Claire of saving these dinosaurs to essentially make up for her past mistakes. Sorry, did I say mistakes? I meant heinous crimes. Saving these dinosaurs isn't going to bring back the thousands of people that died as a direct result of your lack of action, Claire. Franklin also talks about her and Owen's weird thing. They live together in the woods with a child and probably fuck a decent amount. I don't know if that counts as being weird as much as it's just being in a relationship. Although the only relationships Franklin knows is between him, his dominant hand, and whatever tentacles are being shoved into animated Japanese girls. So for him, I guess it would be weird. Anyway, enough of that. It's time for Brokeback Mountain, but without the gay sex and with dinosaurs instead of, something. I don't know what the movie's about. I close my eyes when I stroke it. This is where Owen and some random cunts chase some Parasaurolophuses in the snow on horseback. The scene is overly long and I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to achieve. Owen says, so I'm gonna guess they want to capture them, but these things can weigh like 3 to 4 tons and they outnumber Owen and his lackeys, so what the fuck are they gonna do? This leads us into the first instance of our main characters having literal superpowers, where Owen somehow manages to wrangle one of these massive dinosaurs only using a rope and his strength, all the while tumbling down a rocky hill. He then manages to wrap the rope around a tree trunk to capture it. Like, how the fuck is he this strong? Also, he straight up teleports off his horse. Like, there's a shot of him looking shocked and then he's falling down the hill in the next shot. I'm telling you, they have superpowers now, and this isn't the last time we see this teleportation power either. What exactly was his plan after capturing the parasaur? Like, he still has to move it somewhere safe, as he says, but how the fuck is he gonna do that if all he has is a rope and a horse? It literally dragged him off the equine beast a few seconds ago. I don't care if he somehow tames this wild animal in a few seconds by ripping off How to Train Your Dragon. There is no way he can... Oh, well, fuck me for thinking, I guess. Also, his stupid friends are fucking useless because they didn't capture any themselves. Maybe if they were in the first few movies, they would have had time to develop superpowers, which might have helped them. We get an ominous shot of some evil dudes before cutting to Maisie chopping some wood outside of Owen's masculine cabin. So they're here to hide her from mercenaries, which presumably would have been coming after her pretty soon after the events of the last movie. And the last time we saw the cabin, it was barely a frame. So did Owen get outside help to build it quickly? Or did they live somewhere else while he built it? How did he even... Oh shit, don't think about that. There's an animal squawking in the distance. That's not a squawk, that's Blue, I don't hear you say. And I'm gonna pretend you did, so tell that to the fucking subtitles. In response to this incorrectly dictated animal call, Maisie makes a weird face and just goes back to chopping wood. Like, she definitely knows what that sound is. Why is she so chill about it? Also, is this the first time she's ever heard Blue in the woods? If so, how'd Blue even get there and why did she even come? And if it's not the first time hearing her, then why does she act so surprised? I don't really react anymore when my upstairs neighbors start engaging in primal ball-slapping sex so vigorous it shakes the very floorboards above my head. I'm just used to it by now and don't really react. Seriously though, apartment 17, I'm gonna come up there one day and join in. This is a fucking threat. Then she just cycles down to this lumber mill to look at random shit. Like, why is she here? Is her autistic special interest wood chopping and she just gets the urge to come down for a visit every now and then? Why not make it something that you can do at home? Like fish keeping. That's what I did. Also, isn't she supposed to be hiding out in secret? Why is she going into public places when there's a global manhunt for her? Sure, use the teenage rebellion trope all you want, but her life is in danger and she'll probably be extensively tested on until she dies. A little bit worse than sneaking out of the house and drinking underage, if you ask me. The point of her coming down here is so they can show this dumbass sauropod that they can put in the trailer, and it looks like absolute shit. This shot where Maisie stands in front of it really shows how awful the CGI is. She whispers something to a worker who, for some reason, respects the opinion of not only a child, but a woman. Something very very rare of tradesmen, and they use a flare to lure the dinosaur away from the worksite. Where did they get a flare from? Is this a normal thing on job sites? I work in hospitality, so I don't know anything about this industry. Someone who works as a tradie, let me know if you have flares on hand at all times to distract interrupting dinosaurs. Also, let me know if you'd listen to what an underage girl has to say instead of telling her how mature she is for her age and then trying to date her. Later on, she cycles back to the man cabin, and when Claire asks her where she's been, instead of having a normal response like saying she's been out for a bike ride or went for a walk, decides to be overly aggressive and yell at her, which would only make Claire more suspicious of where Maisie was. Also, why does she enunciate it so much? Like, her mouth opens way too wide when she speaks. Anyway, she goes on a rant about how she's not allowed to do anything, and I guess we're supposed to be empathetic towards her, even though the reason she's being kept away from the public is so she doesn't get kidnapped. Seems fair enough to me, honestly. She also goes on about how she's not a real person or that she was made from someone else. She literally says, "I'm not me." Sure, call it teenage angst or whatever, but clones are still real. It's not like she's a replicant or an android or something. I feel like she should be educated about Dolly the sheep. TLDR about Dolly, she was a cloned sheep that lived a completely normal life and was even able to have 6 lambs. Clones are normal organisms. Instead of having a scene with any weight or emotional connection between a girl and her surrogate mother, we have a stupid exchange where Maisie calls Claire corny for trying to support her, and any potential conflict is just thrown out the window to be torn to shreds by wild dogs and hobos. Owen comes home and briefly talks to Claire about Maisie, and it's revealed they're being watched by Blue. Why is she just watching them and not, like, doing anything? Why does she look so weightless when she runs, and why is there a fucking school bus in the middle of the woods? I'm not gonna hear any dinosaur apocalypse excuses either. I'm not buying that the school bus found its way this deep into the fucking tree line. It's in this bus that we see Blue's baby, which is later said to have been produced asexually because Blue was combined with monitor lizard DNA, which pisses me off because in the first Jurassic Park, they say they use other animals' DNA to fill in gaps in the dinosaurs' genomes. But like, how much monitor lizard DNA did they use for Blue to be able to reproduce? Why didn't any of the other raptors in this franchise reproduce this way? There's literally a subplot in the third Jurassic Park with the fucking raptor eggs. They hunt a rabbit together before it gets jumped by a fox, which they also then attack, and Owen hears the raptor squawk and has the same reaction that Maisie did. He should be fucking floored that there's a raptor in the woods around him. He literally trained them for years and knows that the only one that's in the wild is Blue, and he just doesn't give a fuck. Maybe he read the subtitles and thought it was a random animal. Cut to nighttime, and Owen and Claire try to talk to Maisie about her going into town. Instead of saying, "You could be fucking kidnapped and experimented on, or worse, by literal mercenaries," they say shit like, "You just can't," and "We don't trust people." Why not give her actual reasons so she doesn't think you're just being dramatic and controlling? It's after this scene that we see one of those evil horse dudes from before, but this time he's an evil car dude, and he's talking to some evil phone dude about finding Blue's baby and Maisie. But how did he know about the existence of either of them? Blue and her baby moved in secret and spent most of their time in the bus, and Maisie was inside when he was in the car, unless he somehow saw her before, which we just weren't shown. Also, how does he know it's Maisie for sure unless he's right next to her for a good look? Owen and Claire were an on and off thing for a while. It's entirely possible they had a kid a while back. Also, Maisie's aged a decent amount, so she'd look pretty different. Okay, so we're 18 minutes into the movie, and probably also this video, and we're in West Texas, aka the farm where the locust plague is introduced, aka the start of the vicious downfall of the plot. Not that it was going anywhere particularly interesting at this point, but it's still a steep fucking downhill nonetheless. Also, I want to make it clear that I don't actually think the locust plot is a bad idea in a vacuum. A corporation using giant bugs to take out farm crops that aren't branded by them could be an interesting plot, but this was proclaimed to be the dramatic finale to both the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World trilogies. You'd think it would be more dinosaur or genetic hybrid focused. I was honestly expecting an army of Indominus whatevers to wreak havoc around the world, but not Indominus Locust or whatever the fuck. Imagine if this was a standalone miniseries starring the original cast. That'd be kind of cool. I probably wouldn't watch it, but some of the crazed fans would. Anyway, so these giant locusts that were somehow completely invisible in the crop fields until they started flying chased some children into a barn where they barricade the door with a piece of wood. If they're so gigantic and in such vast numbers, you think the whole field would be locust colored. These crops look completely untouched. Bugs of this size and multitude would eat through the entire field in a matter of seconds. I thought they were devastating farmlands, not just sitting in them and just tickling their locust parts. I don't know if they were coated with penis genes. Some nerd in the comments tell me about locust dick. And also, if these locusts are so dangerous, how come an entire swarm can't break through a barn door held together by a plank? This kid just squashes one with a bucket. They're clearly not that much of a threat if they're defeated by children and don't even seem to eat crops. Why are they even targeting the kids anyway? While locusts are known to be omnivorous, meaning they eat both plants and meat, they don't actively hunt living organisms. They sometimes eat carcasses and shit, but most of the meat they consume is each other. They're extremely cannibalistic, but of course this movie didn't do their locust research. Somehow the children survive the onslaught, and this prompts a dramatic entrance of one Ellie Sattler. I guess this farmer woman called her, but like, how do you even get in contact with someone like her? She says she's been researching the impact of industrial farming on the environment, and she has some students with her. So is she part of an NGO? That stands for non-government organization, by the way. It's probably the most likely thing she's a part of, given the farmer said the Department of Fish and Wildlife didn't even bother, which is a government organization. So how the fuck did this farmer get Ellie's contact? Anyway, there's a reveal/callback thing where Ellie climbs onto a tractor and dramatically takes off her glasses in a way that's kind of reminiscent of the first movie, but this time instead of a magical moment of seeing dinosaurs for the first time, it's just different types of grass. And she points out that their neighbors' crops weren't touched by the locusts. So this field is more ravaged than my hamster after I lose a ranked game. But it wasn't this way before. So did the locusts go from chilling in the field to harassing random children, then back to the crops, and then decide to fuck off? It's a weird schedule for sure, but I've never seen my friend be killed with a bucket, and I guess everyone reacts to trauma differently. Even giant bugs. The farmer points out that the neighbors with the unhamstered crops used seeds from Biosyn.
Yeah, I bet they do.
Yes, Ellie, that is what she said. She asks if they found a live one, and then we get shown a desert in Utah right before another dramatic reveal of Alan Grant at a fossil site. It's even got some nostalgic music behind it. Hey, remember when movies elicited emotions from their own merit without the need for nostalgia? Yeah, me neither. Can you stop revving your engine, you stupid fuck? Except the emotions I feel here are less of autistic wonder and glee, and are more akin to how the vet feels when I present him with my ravaged hamster for the third time that week. Okay, that's the last hamster joke, I promise. He yaps to some random extras before the classic
You're gonna want to see this.
takes his attention to where the plot is happening. The plot this time being where Ellie Sattler currently resides. They say each other's full names like that's a normal thing that normal humans do.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
And also to remind the little kiddies in the audience who the fuck these people are. They have an awkward exchange that I don't actually mind because these actors are good at what they do and actually have some charisma, unlike the Rang and the Rat and their colonizing clone. Despite the awkward full name greeting they gave each other, they have a somewhat nice and natural catch-up where it's established that Ellie's kids are grown up and that her and her husband split. This is important so they can fuck later. Ellie presents the locust that was captured on the farm from before so Alan can inspect it. I'm not entirely sure why he needs to look at it. He studies bones and this thing doesn't have any. How did the farmer catch this thing anyway? Was this the one in the bucket? How did they transfer it from there to this cage? She says it has genes that have been extinct since the Cretaceous, but how would she have known that? When did she take a sample and how did she even test it? Or is she guessing because it's so massive? You know bugs grew that big because there was a fuck ton of oxygen in dinosaur times, right? They'd probably fucking die in today's relatively anaerobic or oxygen deficient atmosphere. She also says that it's probably Biosyn that made them given they don't eat Biosyn crops, which I'm not even gonna bother going into how the fuck they coded a locust to not eat a certain plant. But she continues to say she wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to control the world's food supply. Okay, the plagues range from Iowa to Texas. That is not the whole world. Other parts of the world make food too. It's just the Americas that would be fucked. Everywhere else in the world would be fine, unless the bugs were coded with a gene that allowed them to migrate across massive bodies of water. Ellie states her plan to go and get a sample from a locust and Biosyn to prove they're all behind this and asks Alan to be her witness. But like, why does it need to be him? Why not another scientist? Did the producers tell her to go get Alan so they could make the movie? But then she says she got invited to their headquarters by Ian Malcolm. Why can't Ian be her witness? He was on TV yapping about dinosaurs a few years ago. People could probably listen to him over some random dude who digs up bones. And he'd also probably help her too, given he gave her a cryptic message stating there's some things she'd want to see. So thanks to the power of bonus, Alan is now on board, and they rock up at an airfield where a T-Rex, among other dinosaurs, are being boarded onto a cargo plane that'll take them to the Biosyn sanctuary. I fuck with that. This company doesn't seem too bad. If they want to control America's food supply, I say let them. They're cleaning up the dinosaur mess that Maisie made. Ellie finds and freaks out about a baby Triceratops that is implied to be the same one Claire rescued earlier in the movie. I think it's trying to make a parallel between the two characters, but one genuinely loves dinosaurs and the other ran a park where she didn't give a fuck about their well-being unless it affected her profit margins. I'd say they're a little different personally. Then Ellie says,
You never get used to it.
ignoring the fact that Alan was recorded completely separately from the rest of the line, you never get used to it is just false, because that's the whole reason the Indominus was created, because children were bored of dinosaurs. They literally got used to it. And if you really think about it, this getting used to it is the leading cause of all the dinosaur bullshit in this universe. But I gotta say, I really like them using animatronics instead of CGI. Sure, the movements don't always look super real, and you can tell it's a robot, but something like this will always age better than a special effect. Next up, we're back with the least interesting character in the movie, and she's trying to feed a carnivorous dinosaur with a piece of toast. Once again, she seems pretty underwhelmed for seeing a baby raptor in front of her, given that there's only one other raptor in existence that she knows of. And Owen is equally as unfazed when Blue shows up. Like, bro, you haven't seen this thing since it made a metaphor and ran off 4 years ago. Have a fucking reaction. Owen teaches Maisie about how to not look scared in front of a raptor, and his arm magically teleports between shots. Blue is so horrified by this act of wizardry, she runs back off into the woods, and Owen follows her to her nest, leaving Maisie behind. This is stupid. First off, how do you know for sure she's going back to her nest? Second off, shouldn't Maisie go with you if she's being hunted by people? God knows Claire wouldn't be able to do shit against mercenaries. So Maisie cycles off, ready to be captured and prove Claire and Owen correct, and Blue becomes a victim of vehicular dino slaughter. Somehow Owen witnesses both the capture of Blue's baby as well as Maisie herself, with her method of kidnapping being a menacing old lady standing on a bridge. I feel like it's not in Maisie's character to go down like a bitch, given she fights Claire and Owen on just about everything. Surely she'd tell them to fuck off at the very least, right? So Owen runs back home in record time to tell Claire that Maisie's been captured, and Claire is shucking corn? Is that what this is called? I don't fuck my cousins, so I don't really know anything about farm life. She seems particularly calm for someone whose adopted daughter just got kidnapped by various mercenaries, and she walks outside to see Blue, who somehow didn't get here before Owen. Did she take ages to escape that random rock face? She's climbed other dinosaurs and buildings with ease before. What's so difficult about these rocks? And even if she did take ages, these things can run faster than motorbikes, so Owen would have needed a fat head start. Blue is here because they took a baby. They're in creating a link between her and Owen because they both lost their children, which I believe is the third semi-complex concept that this dinosaur has understood in this franchise. First, it was the weird, like, non-verbal agreement to not murder each other with the T-Rex. In Fallen Kingdom, it was her deciding that she didn't want to sacrifice her freedom for safety, and now this. If they make a fourth Jurassic World, I bet she's gonna be able to fucking speak to humans. She also scratches Owen, an act which somehow doesn't result in extreme bleeding or dismemberment. I guess she's mad at him, but like, why? He didn't lead the mercenaries to her baby. She did. Fuck, I'm talking about this special effect as if it's an actual character cunt. What the fuck? And that doesn't speak to the quality of the writing, because Blue is a fucking animal, not a human. Claire says she knows who to call, and we cut to... fucking Franklin. And we get some extremely helpful text that tells us he's in the Dangerous Species Division of the CIA. Some fuckhead yaps about how the dinosaur domination is like a biblical plague as he looks at videos of a woman being attacked by pterosaurs while screaming for her life. What arsehole took this video and didn't help her? Their encapsulating conversation is interrupted by a booty call from Claire. Franklin tells her that she's a subject of interest around there and shouldn't be talking to her. So why is he? Working at the CIA would mean you're tracked like 24/7 and your phone lines would definitely be tapped too. So Franklin just lost his job for associating with a criminal. Together they identify the guy who stole Maisie and the raptor before Justice Smith shows off his terrible acting skills while telling them off about taking Maisie.
Oh shit. I told you somebody would come looking for her. You can't just take a person, Claire.
He's not entirely wrong though. Like, they did technically steal that child, but that doesn't mean they should have expected mercenaries to come and find her. Anyway, he tells them that there's a CIA bust about to take place in Malta, and the mercenary guy could potentially be there. This is definitely classified intel, and he just leaked it to the two worst people to leak that information to, right next to his CIA office. Seriously, how is this guy not being JFK'd right now? Now we're on a cargo plane, and Ellie is cuddling up to Alan. I guess this is supposed to be cute or something, but everyone knows old people can't be cute. All they know is fuck up using FPOS machine, be racist, and pass anti-abortion laws. They land in the Biosyn sanctuary in the Dolomites, as told to us by some ugly text, and they're greeted by some guy with an awful jacket who tells them they're both legends around the facility, even though they're both relatively unsuccessful in their fields in terms of notoriety. Ellie doesn't work for any big boy organizations, and Alan is just a random paleontologist. So realistically, the only thing they'd be famous for is almost being murdered by dinosaurs in the 90s. They fly somewhere in a helicopter with pointless side wing propellers, as Terrible Jacket runs his mouth talking about all the dinosaurs they have, most notably the T-Rex. He continues to talk about this restricted airspace technology that keeps the pterosaurs from flying above 500 feet. We'll never get an explicit explanation as to how this works, and I can't be asked to read anything on the wiki. This is just here so we can have an action sequence later. They spot a type of titanosaur called Dreadnoughtus chilling in a lake. I don't have much to say about it. They're one of, if not the biggest species of sauropod ever. There are some sources which say it's the biggest and some that say it's just one of the biggest, which is a common feature among all titanosaurs, but whatever. I swear there's new research that comes out every 38 seconds that claims a new biggest sauropod, so I'm not even gonna bother. As for its accuracy, yeah, I guess it's pretty accurate. It's big and has a long neck, so there's not much to report there. Awful Wardrobe talks about how they stock the sanctuary with deer for the apex predator, the Giganotosaurus. A couple of things. First, the pronunciation. There's a decent amount of debate on whether it's pronounced Giganotosaurus or Giganotosaurus, and those debates of course take place in my comment sections. I learned it as Giga, and some paleontologists call it that too, but apparently the person who named it pronounces it as Giga. To keep everyone sane, I'll refer to it as the Giga from now on. Second off, how many deer are they stocking in here? They're presumably alive, so isn't that animal abuse? You don't see zookeepers throwing rabbits into the Komodo exhibits or infant babies into the crocodile pits. They make sure they're dead before they do that. And finally, where the fuck did they get this Giga? They would have had to make it. Why the fuck did they do that? There's several theme parks in this universe that have shown that making gigantic predatory dinosaurs and putting them in an enclosed area is a bad idea. Also, I thought this sanctuary was only for dinosaurs that they managed to capture in civilization, not for housing all new ones. Then we get our first look at the abomination, just taking a nap. Spooky. Then we get even more exposition about brain implants in the dinosaurs that allow the researchers to control where they go using electrical impulses, which is fucking stupid and makes absolutely no sense. But in this world, dinosaurs exist, so we'll go with it. What's actually stupid is Alan's fair comment about how that may be cruel to the dinosaurs being rebutted by Shitty Cardigan with,
how much voltage was in the electric fences at Jurassic Park?
like that's at all comparable to shoving an electrical device into an animal's brain and controlling it. Electric fences are deterrents for animals that think of escaping. They try it once and then never again. It doesn't matter about the voltage if it's essentially mind control. Also, Alan didn't fucking build the fences for Jurassic Park, so why does this feel like an attack at him? I do want to note that this exposition is given in a natural way, that being to a character that would actually need this explained to them. And the exposition giver even refrains from explaining information that Alan and Ellie already know. Good job, Colin. You get a gold star. So they land at the Pentagon to meet this cunt who was in the other movies and looks completely different now. How did his forehead shrink over time? That's like the opposite of what they usually do. He's supposedly known for his law-breaking studies and being a villain in the other movies, which you'd assume Ellie and Alan would know about and would therefore be cold towards him, but I guess not. Maybe they don't recognize him. He yaps for a few minutes about some genetic bullshit before appropriating some culture and walking away, leaving them to go listen to a lecture by Ian Malcolm. This goes for an outstandingly long time before the lecture ends with a round of applause. I've never actually attended or even watched one of my recorded lectures for uni, but I guarantee they don't ever end with applause. The original trio finally meet up again and Alan gets jealous of Ellie and Ian talking.
He slid into my DMs.
As they continue walking and talking, Ian seems to be completely content with the locust issue that's about to ruin all of Earth's ecosystems and food supply before he orders a coffee and whispers to Ellie in the most suspicious way possible. Like, he checks the cameras and everything. This is presumably to avoid suspicion of anyone finding out he doesn't follow the beliefs of the company. But if Franklin didn't need to be careful at all at the CIA office, this motherfucker sure as hell doesn't need to be either. What is the company even going to do if they find out who was helping people uncover their plans? They don't have a history of outright murdering people, and it'd look super suspicious if they killed a public figure as big as Ian Malcolm. Worst case scenario, they just fire him. But his whispers confirm Ellie's suspicions about Biosyn's motivation, that being the whole their crops are the only safe ones thing, and tells them where the locusts are before handing her a keycard of some kind. Also, for some reason, this whole time Alan was arguing with some barista guy. guy. He lists all the different additives for coffee like it's supposed to be funny, and I think it's an attempted rip on millennials. But if you really wanted to piss them off, just mention Eminem or skinny jeans and they make a cringe diss track to an entire generation about it. Down on the locust level that Ian mentioned, we get a very underwhelming introductory shot of Henry Wu as he complains about the locusts being stronger than they anticipated and how they need to be eradicated. But isn't stronger better? Their plan is working. Only Biosyn crops are unaffected by the swarms, and the stronger the locusts, the more panic will ensue among farmers, forcing them to buy Biosyn seeds. Damn, I'd make a good evil businessman, hey. And in this universe, there aren't even any dinosaurs to eat me alive. I guess this is trying to set up a redemption of sorts for Henry, but he was like super fucking evil in the first movie especially, loving the fact that the Indominus threw out humans placed at the top of the food chain. Now he's scared of bugs. They also established that Baby Blue and Maisie are on their way to the sanctuary facility, apparently as expected, meaning they knew about Blue's baby even though it was spotted by some random hunters. Wait, those guys said some pretty low-tech shit. Why were they hired by this rich-ass corporation? Surely you'd get some military-like guys, right? They say Henry knew Blue would reproduce asexually, but why even bother capturing it then if it's essentially a clone of Blue? Fuck bro, I don't care. Just take me to Malta. Look at the way this bitch answers the phone. It's clearly a hang up or answer button, but she swipes up and it answers the call anyway. We meet up with Maisie again, who's just now complacent in her kidnapping. She's not struggling or yelling at all. She's just sitting quietly and moping. Even if I was a little girl, I'd still try bash the fuck out of anyone near me if I was kidnapped, especially on a plane. What are they gonna do? Throw me out? I'm a valuable asset. They can't do that. This is also where we meet the new pilot character, Kayla. She's being paid to transport the baby raptor in this rickety-ass plane. She suspiciously asks who Maisie is before being dismissed and walks into the cargo hold. Suddenly, Owen and Claire are in Malta too. How the fuck did they get here? Malta is in Europe. Did they fly? How and when? Why did we just cut and they're in the middle of a random street? How is the French guy here? Why did they teleport to hug? What is happening? In case you don't remember, this guy was in the first Jurassic World. He was left in a log while being attacked by a vicious raptor, and that was the last time we saw him in the movie. His part in this movie is more or less the same, but I'll get to that later. Once again, a CIA agent tells Owen and Claire everything about their plan and even gives them earpieces. The CIA isn't a community Facebook group. You can't just easily join and start fucking around when you want to, and every time Owen and Claire have been told about a CIA plan, they fuck it up somehow. You'd think the agents would learn that by now, but we need the movie to happen. It's been a while since a dinosaur fucking murdered someone. He even tells them not to interfere, but if he really didn't want that, then why the fuck did he give them earpieces? He then explains that there's a huge black market for dinosaurs, even though Claire and Owen would 100% know about it. I know the average Jurassic World enjoyers aren't the sharpest sheep in the shed, but surely they can remember when Claire was dismantling an illegal dinosaur breeding facility half an hour ago. He gives this homeless dude a coin who then opens a door for him to the dinosaur market. I guess this is the market's method of being discreet, but like, what if someone who had no idea about the market gives the hobo some money out of kindness and generosity? Would he open the door for them? Doesn't know who Claire, Owen, or the Frenchie are, so does he just let anyone in? It seems like a kind of stupid secret entrance. Is he paid for his service? Or does he just dress homeless? What's with the dog? How did the CIA know about this? How did the cops not? How does one apply for this job? Anyway, we get a few establishing shots of the tomfoolery of underground marketplaces, and instead of anything creative, it's mostly just dinosaurs tied up or in cages. There's the odd dinosaur fight, or this dude who's somehow trained a Dimorphodon. By the way, they don't look like that at all. They looked more like a toucan with teeth. This is just a pterodactyl with a T-Rex head that was inbred with a scrotum. Go on and tell me that's not an accurate description. Some guy just has a pet baby Carnotaurus too, and it's just chilling. Sure, its mouth is bound so it can't kill you super easily, but it's still got claws and shit. Also, what's this guy gonna do when it grows? There's a dude cooking one of the giant locusts that he just inexplicably obtained, even though they're only in America at the moment, and he's also roasting a giant penis. There's a lot of Middle Eastern sounding music and yelling, and I can't help but feel like this is all a little bit racist. But to prove Universal's not racist, we get reintroduced to Kayla, even though that throws off the pacing because we were literally just with her a minute ago. It's not even a hard thing to fix. Like, start with the Malta scenes with Owen and Claire, naturally introducing us to the location and the black market. Then once they get to the market, we cut away and are introduced to Kayla. You can even add a scene of her getting there. Then after that, both groups' plots can intersect in a way that doesn't take 5 times as long as it fucking needs to. She makes a deal with this guy that doesn't make any sense. He refers to dinosaurs in kilos as opposed to just quantifying what dinosaurs he wants her to take. Sure, that could show that they only see these dinosaurs as products, but I don't think Colin thought that deep about it. He offers her 2,000, she asks how much he has in total, and the scene just cuts. What the fuck was the point of that? Especially when she just gets reintroduced for a 3rd time in this dramatic shot in the bathroom mirror. Here she wants Claire to leave the market, telling her about how dangerous this place can be if you fuck with the wrong person. I guess she can pick out anyone who doesn't belong, but I think she's forgetting that she's got her hair and makeup done and also doesn't look like she belongs here. Why are there even dedicated gender-specific bathrooms in this area? And why did Claire split from the rest of the group? That seems kind of fucking stupid, no? But what's even more stupid is Claire asking this random fucking woman who literally just threatened her for help with finding Maisie. They don't know each other. Kayla could just lie and kidnap her. Also, all these people in the market are in the dinosaur business. Do none of them know about Claire? She owned the fucking park that caused all this. She'd surely be a celebrity of sorts, right? Alright. I'm a level with you guys. This movie is agonizingly difficult to talk about because of how much it jumps all over the place. Ignoring the awful dialogue and the questionable plot, the way that everything is presented is actually poisoning my brain. So I think for mine, and more importantly, all of your sanities, I'm going to briefly summarize all the dumb shit that happens in the next few minutes so we can get to the more interesting dumb shit faster. I'm sure I'll have to do the same a few more times in this video. Now Claire and Owen are being involved in the plan, despite that being the exact wrong thing to do. Claire's in the Maltese sex dungeon and Owen's on a roof. They spot the dude they're looking for and get Claire to stalk him. What is Claire going to do? I don't fucking know. How do people not notice how suspicious she's being? I also don't know. There's an amateur crash soon, assume. Thanks, Colin. It's some overly intense orchestral music over dudes just walking. Thanks, Colin. And then we meet back with this bitch as she yaps about raptors. Thanks, Colin. The bitch introduces the Atrociraptors that are essentially just smaller Indoraptors. They even have the laser targeting from the movie before. There's some shit dialogue, and she says one of the dumbest things ever in the context of this franchise. She says you can't engineer loyalty, but you can nurture it or train it. Nothing she said is true at all. The Indoraptor is a perfect example of engineering loyalty. It focused on the laser whilst trying to kill Owen and Maisie, and while also on a slippery ass roof. And the nurture argument is deconstructed when you remember that Blue and the other raptors were raised and trained from birth, but still turned on everyone. The gang realize Maisie isn't there, and a gunfight ensues. This causes the hunter guy that they were chasing to run, and the bitch to just powerfully walk, because she's cool like that. Owen chases the hunter through the marketplace, making sure to cause as much of a scene as possible. Owen also fucking pegs a mini compy or something across the room. Guess he suddenly doesn't give a fuck about the well-being of dinosaurs if he's willing to throw them into the stratosphere without a second thought. For some reason, the hunter shoots these chains and releases a Carnotaurus and an Allosaurus that corner and almost kill him. Like, fucking sick one, bro. Getting fucking eaten alive by unextinct carnivorous animals will really show the guy chasing you that you're not to be messed with. Does he know what these chains do? Or was it a guess? If it was a guess, then why did he shoot some random chains? Also, that's some good-ass aim to hit those first try in a panic while running. Owen tries to do the hand thing with giant dinosaurs and almost loses his life over it. Clearly just a shot to put in the trailer. And he escapes using superhero-like agility to start a wrestle in a dino pit. Then everything just breaks out into absolute carnage. Some dude falls into a fire and starts burning alive, and when another guy comes over to help and also catches fire, his bravery is rewarded by being turned into Allosaurus feces. Did none of these people have guns? Shoot the rampaging dinos! The hunter then gets crucified by two baby dinosaurs, and when interrogated by Owen, tells him everything he needs to know. Very convenient. Thankfully, he was very succinct and brief with his explanation because he gets brutally murdered by baryonyx immediately after he's done talking. Then Owen, looking relatively undisturbed by the horrific execution he just witnessed, radios into the team. Meanwhile, the CIA crashed the truck with the dinosaurs on it. I guess they only care about the fact that selling these animals is illegal as opposed to caring about the animals' well-being. Also, how did this truck break through an entire brick wall? That's a weak-ass tunnel. Or a strong-ass truck. Then the bitch releases the raptors that are somehow completely fine after getting violently tossed around in tiny cages. Why even release them? They're super valuable, aren't they? So why are you just sending them towards these highly trained dudes with guns? Also, how did the bitch get here? She was literally just at the alley before she powerfully walked off screen. Here we get our first view of the Atrociraptors. Now, I said in the first Jurassic World that I wouldn't get pissy over feathers, so sticking by that logic, the only thing that's inaccurate is their size. The real-life Atrociraptors are about half as tall but grow to around 2 meters long. But you can't have a cool chase scene with long turkeys chasing people around a city, can you? Colin. The bitch uses the targeting laser on the agents, and once again, the French guy gets trapped in a tight space whilst under the threat of raptor molestation. Could they not have just shot the bitch before she used the taser? It's not like the CIA to avoid killing people, especially minorities in foreign countries. We also learned that the bitch is working with Dr. Lewis, but why? They're not being taken to the Biosyn facility, they're being taken to Riyadh. Did Lewis engineer them? What part does he play in this, and how does he profit? Also, how does this bitch know who Claire and Owen are? Then begins one of the worst action movie chases I've ever seen, where Claire is running super aggressively and the bitch is just powerfully walking. Again. Remember, she's super cool and has to act completely unbothered to everything, otherwise she's not a strong and cool character. Their brisk walk leads them to some Maltese family's house where they engage in combat, where their fighting skills range from fucking incompetent to superhuman. Like, how can Claire throw this woman across a room with a stab from a taser? And furthermore, how is she completely okay after it? Claire interrogates the woman, referring to Maisie as her daughter, and then the woman correctly points out that Maisie is indeed not Claire's daughter. She, like the hunter who got brutally killed, also just tells Claire everything she needs to know. Interrogations go pretty smoothly for our main characters. Claire then uses her superhuman strength to fend off a surprise attack from an Atrociraptor. I thought these things kill what they were told to. Why did it suddenly attack Claire? Sure, she gets targeted soon after, but why did it attack Claire and not the bitch? It's not like she owns them, so the raptor should be unbiased in its rampage. After being targeted, Claire's stunt double performs some impressive free running across the roofs of Malta. How is she outrunning a raptor? How does she know how to do parkour this well? She was a businesswoman not too long ago and can barely hold her own in a fight. Moving on a little bit, Claire fucks up a jump between two balconies and somehow doesn't break any of her ribs doing so. The dinosaur, however, doesn't fuck up the jump, but instead flies through a glass door into another innocent Maltese household. Conveniently, Kayla is there to suddenly decide she wants to be a good guy and steals a car that Claire happens to fall onto from the balcony. I guess she wasn't sympathetic to Claire until she saw her about to be killed. Also, why are no other civilians noticing this insanity above them? I'm getting some flashbacks from the first movie from these two being in a scene involving raptors, so let's marvel at this awful CGI and move back to Kayla's heroic act of Grand Theft Auto, where she tells Claire she's gonna fly them out of Malta to safety. At the same time, Owen is being chased by another raptor while on a motorbike. He was targeted by the bitch woman who was being held at gunpoint by the French guy. She definitely could have pointed the laser at him to save herself, but that would make for a less action-packed scene. So we get another chase devoid of any stakes or tension because we know Owen isn't gonna fucking die here, and for some reason another raptor gets involved, despite not having been ordered to target Owen. Both parties cause unnecessary levels of property damage, and the scene just feels really empty because of the lack of sound design or music. Just take a look at this. Some guy riding an e-scooter gets what he fucking deserves, and Maltese authorities somehow haven't impounded this hunk of sheet metal disguised as a plane that was left on a beach. Works for our main cast though, because now we can move to another action set piece. Kayla briefly explains that they made a lot of enemies from doing what they did, but like, so did the CIA, and most of those enemies either died or were working for the main villain, so who gives a fuck? Also, there's no way anyone has found out what Kayla's done yet, so I don't know what she means by we. Anyway, I guess Colin really likes the Fast and Furious movies, because this scene feels like something ripped directly from that abortion of a franchise. Basically, Owen somehow managed to catch up with the plane that's about to take off whilst on a piece of shit motorbike he found on the streets before performing X Games level stunts to jump on. How is Claire just walking normally? When planes are initially taking off, they're bumpy as fuck, and this isn't normal flat tarmac, it's like gravel and dirt, and they're in a piece of shit aircraft. She should be thrown around more violently than the baby I threw in the Large Hadron Collider on October 2nd, 2008. But oh no, a raptor also manages to gets fucking murked. Kayla says, still got it. Like she did anything more than successfully take off in her own aircraft before introducing herself to Claire and Owen officially. She's pretty fucking rude to both of them here actually, because remember, if you're an absolute hack of a writer like Colin, when creating a strong female character, they can't just be a normal person with realistic traits, they gotta be either super rude and condescending to everyone or seem so completely above every situation they're put in. Thankfully, that marks the end of our time in the orange place, and we can now go back to the white place, that being Biosyn, where Alan and Ellie are still getting a tour. How fucking long is this guide? What the fuck? The awfully accessorized tour guide from before says something so heinous and aggravating that I don't even know where to begin. He explains that they replicate exact genomes of dinosaurs at Biosyn, like they don't fill in gaps like Jurassic World and Park have done in the past, and he doesn't just say it's for the Morris Intrepidus he uses as an example. He says they straight up don't splice DNA for any of the dinosaurs they've created at the facility. Sticking with the Morris Intrepidus for a bit, I'm sincerely hoping this one is a baby, because they grew to around the size of a human, but as for its accuracy in general, it's a relatively unresearched species, so what it actually looks like is very much up for debate, but based on what scientists know and from my research, it seems fine. But what really fucks me off about this statement, and I mean really fucks me off, is it implies that the Giga and the Therizinosaurus that we see later are both genetically pure, which is complete fucking horse shit, because both of those dinosaurs are very different to their real life counterparts, but I'll get to those in more detail when we come across them later. The guide then offers to let Ellie and Alan walk around the facility without him. This isn't a museum, it's a private institution that's hiding some pretty massive secrets that can result in them getting viciously dicked if anyone were to find out. Why the fuck does he let them do this? And if you want to say that he's working against Biosyn, why don't the cameras and shit pick up on what he's doing? Ian had to be super careful earlier, so why doesn't he? Oh look, a Maisie scene, how terrible. I'm gonna skip through this as well. We learned that Maisie named the baby raptor Beta, which is a little disrespectful if you ask me. Then Henry yaps about monitor lizards and reveals that Charlotte Lockwood, the person who Maisie is a clone of, created Maisie in the same way that Blue created Beta. To clarify, that's through asexual reproduction, where monitor lizards essentially just give birth to clones of themselves. But instead of an exact clone, Charlotte somehow changed a specific part of her DNA that fixed some incurable disease that she had and caused Maisie not to have it. And that is so fucking stupid, I'm moving to the next scene because I've been writing the script for a month and I need to keep taking breaks because of bullshit like this. So Ellie and Alan have somehow acquired hazmat suits without being seen doing so on the cameras and have gotten down to the lower classified areas also without being seen on the cameras. I thought you had to be extra careful around them to avoid raising suspicion, but let's be honest, when is something ever consistent in this franchise? They find the locust room remarkably easy and head inside to get a sample or something. I wasn't really listening, but I think it involves them injecting fentanyl into the locusts to get them all addicted so they'll all congregate in California. At the same time, Maisie manages to escape with Beta and sets off alarms around the entire facility, which enrages the fent bugs, causing them to try and eat Ellie and Alan, even though, as I mentioned before, they don't actively hunt prey. Unrelated, but I wonder what would happen if they tried using bug spray on these things. There's a weird slow-mo shot of Beta on a table. No, but like, why is it slow-mo? And Maisie interrupts a romantic moment. She also somehow knows exactly who Ellie and Alan are. It's entirely possible it was explained to her in some scenes before, but I skipped those, and I don't care to go back. Also, they cut this shot too early.
Yeah, we should go.
It just cuts her breath short. Could they not have held it a few fractions of a second longer? It's not like Colin was trying to keep the runtime short here. Also, why don't their footsteps make any noise? Back on the plane, Kayla somehow perfectly describes the steamy night I had at a gay bar before being denied clearance for landing. Also, her call sign is N141. Bit of an odd code name. Also, I think this bit's supposed to be funny. Kayla fakes having poor connection with her microphone and then threatens the operator with something. We can only speculate. He can't fucking hear anything Kayla is saying. He doesn't have a headset. So Lewis tells her to turn off the aerial deterrent system, the thing that keeps the pterosaurs flying below a certain altitude. Doesn't that mean they can all escape now? How did Lewis know they'd instantly attack Kayla's plane? And why does her shitbox aircraft have a warning system for the ADS being turned off? Within seconds, they're attacked by a Quetzalcoatlus.
It's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Actually, no, it is absolutely not a plane at all and is nothing like a plane. By that logic, a horse is a model of BMW. So instead of turning around and leaving the airspace like she said she would, Kayla instead decides to stare at the ominous wings that hover menacingly around the plane. Like, get out of there, do something. She even knows what it is, so there's no excuse for her doing fuck all here. Also, I thought the airstrip was outside the sanctuary. Why are they flying over it now? Anyway, time for me to get upset about inaccurate dinosaurs again, and this one is the worst it's been since the Mosasaurus. Hold on to something, this is about to get a little bit autistic. So after doing some research, I found out that Kayla's plane is a Fairchild C-119 C-119 flying boxcar, a cargo plane built in the late 40s designed to carry cargo and personnel. They had a wingspan of 109 feet and 3 inches, or about 33 meters, and could reach top speeds of around 467 kilometers, or about 290 miles an hour, but they usually cruised around 320 kilometers or 200 miles an hour. Enter Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying dinosaur ever. We're going to assume the dinosaur depicted here is the Quetzalcoatlus northropi, aka the largest species of Quetzalcoatlus, which had a maximum wingspan of 36 feet or almost 11 meters, and top speeds of 130 kilometers or 80 miles an hour. Do you see where I'm going with this? This Quetzalcoatlus is almost as big, if not the same size as the plane, thus giving it a wingspan of around or over 100 feet, meaning this thing is more than triple the size it's supposed to be. And not to mention the extra 190 kilometers or 120 miles an hour it would have needed to fly to catch up to a cruising C-119. Fuck that, it would have needed way more than that to catch up as quickly as it did. Also, there's no way a Quetzalcoatlus is strong enough to take down a plane with such ease. They had strong legs that allowed them to jump 2.4 meters or 8 feet straight up, but they were only strong enough to carry an average person. For those Americans thinking, wow, that's super strong, I mean like a normal average person. Weighed in terms of pounds and kilos instead of megatons and planets. So once again, this fuck-ass franchise has supersized its dinosaurs for the sake of some dumbass spectacle. And this one only lasts for like 10 seconds before it fucks off. Probably to go meet its friends in New York or something. Pure Gino, my fucking testicle. So Kayla states the obvious, and after an extremely unemotional goodbye, Owen fucking ejects Claire from the plane. He also lies by saying they'll see each other again. Like, you're in a crashing plane and you're both about to enter a sanctuary filled with man-eating dinosaurs. At this point, don't even eject Claire. You might as well just die together. Also, the trivia listed on Amazon Prime says this model of plane didn't have ejection seats, and even if it was added as an aftermarket edition, it wouldn't be in the engineer's seat, which I guess is the middle seat that Claire is in. I don't know, I'm not a pilot, and I can't ask anyone who is one because the only pilot I ever knew was fired from my work for sexually harassing several women, including minors. You may think that's a joke, but it's actually true. His name was... Now he works here. So Claire gets shot into the atmosphere, and after being bombarded by several pterosaurs, that mind you were nowhere to be seen in any other shots, somehow doesn't break her legs upon landing at such extreme speeds. Then we have this scene that was awkwardly shoved in. It involves Alan, Ellie, and Maisie using this futuristic train to escape the facility with the help of the Blazer dude. He doesn't have his awful apparel donned and also reveals himself to be working against Biosyn, which can only mean that his poor choice of clothing was making him evil. But yeah, the scene could have just been added after Maisie met up with the original two. It wouldn't have changed anything at all, especially given we just cut back to Claire straight after, and she's just hanging from her parachute in a tree. Honestly, I'd stay up there. It's definitely safer than being on the ground. But of course, this is Jurassic World, so she instantly comes across a dinosaur that wants to take her life for no reason. And this time it's a Therizinosaurus. And you guessed it, they fucked it up big time. Usually it's the dinosaur's appearance and size that's the most incorrect, and barring their extreme aggression to organisms within their eyesight and pretty much anything that Blue does, their behavior and actions remain unnotable. But here, both the appearance and behavior are fucked up. I didn't think it was possible, but Jurassic World Dominion broke new ground with its dinosaur inaccuracies. The Theri, as I'm gonna call it, only grew to around 5 meters or 16 feet tall, but the one depicted here is double the size of its real life counterpart, standing at 10 meters or 33 feet tall. The faces also didn't look like that at all. In fact, the whole thing did not look like that at all. In reality, they were much more bird-like, almost like a turkey crossed with an anteater, and their posturing was likely more vertical rather than horizontal. That basically means they sat more upright and had good posture, instead of standing like an esports gamer with scoliosis. The name Therizinosaurus translates to scythe lizard, and it gets this name from its most prominent feature, the claws, known as unguals. And this is where the inaccuracies really begin. These unguals are the largest of any known land animal, growing up to half a meter or 20 inches in length. Just take a moment to really think about how fucking massive that is for a claw, and add on top of that they were slightly curved like sides and likely super fucking sharp, and you can understand why they were likely used for intimidation. Notice how I said they're used for intimidation and not for combat, and that's because their unguals are far too delicate to even be used for digging dirt. Instead, they were probably used for grabbing hard to reach plants because the Theri was a herbivore. So with all that, you can be sure that one-shotting deer and stabbing dinosaur abominations is way out of the question, which brings us nicely into their behavior. Of course, fossils don't tell us a lot about them, but their paleo environment can heavily suggest what they may have been like. By the way, paleo environment essentially just refers to the environment they used to live in, including the other plants and animals that they lived with. The apex predator of their environment was a discount T-Rex known as Tarbosaurus, which was significantly smaller than the Theri. And if you're bigger than the apex predator in your environment, you likely don't have to be hyper-aggressive or territorial, especially to the point where you're attacking anything that makes the slightest noise like one of these things from a quiet place. Also, some dino nerds got mad that I called the Tarbosaurus a discount T-Rex. Look at this photo of a T-Rex and this photo of a Tarbosaurus. There is no fucking difference. And to prove it, I swapped them around. I ain't respecting some motherfucker whose name translates to alarming lizard. Fuck off, alarming lizard. I hope you perish. Anyway, back to the movie. So yeah, the Theri looks completely wrong. It behaves way too aggressively when they'd most likely just mind their own business, and when it acts too aggressively, its claws are used in a way they'd never be able to be used in real life. Ignoring the fact that its aggression is wrong, why did it attack this deer, and why didn't the deer fucking skedaddle at the slightest noise around it? Anyone who's seen a deer knows they evacuate when a stick snaps. But then again, just like that child I ran over a few years back, they love to run into the middle of the road when a several-ton hunk of metal swerves onto the footpath to hit them. Stupid kid thought he could get away. Stupid deer. I meant deer. Anywho, for some reason it's blind in one eye, which just so happens to be the one closest to Claire. But despite it not being completely blind, it will now spend the next little bit not not seeing Claire at all, even though she's right fucking underneath it. Or at least, that's how I interpret it. It follows her before screaming at some water that Claire dived under. But if it saw her then, why didn't it slash at her like it did the deer? I also do have to say that this scene is surprisingly effective at building tension, with the ominous shots of its claws and its stalking behind Claire combined with the long take working pretty effectively. Too bad the next scene is fucking donkey dick. Not only do Owen and Kayla survive the plane crash at all, they do so without the slightest scratch on them. Once again proving that if you're a main character in this franchise, you have literal superpowers. Kayla briefly, and I mean extremely briefly, laments the loss of her plane, before she and Owen sneak across the ice carefully, trying not to fall in. First off, that ice should already be broken because a fucking plane just slammed into it. But if we go by that logic that it's already intact, the massive impact that the ice withstood from the crash would mean that it would be almost entirely unaffected from two people walking on it. They also fucking run on it later without much of an issue, so this is stupid. Plus, even if they did fall in, which Owen does later, their superpowers would help them to survive, which happens to Owen later as well. While the two heroes have a short bonding conversation over their pasts and why Kayla is even bothering to help them, they're rudely interrupted by a Pyroraptor. And I'm gonna be honest, I really wanted this one to be scientifically accurate. I even had a whole skit thing planned with shitty celebration sound effects, but of course they fucked it up. It's like 5 times the size of its real life counterpart, meaning it was on purpose for the sake of fucking spectacle. Fucking Colin. Why go through the effort of saying all the dinosaurs in the sanctuary are genetically perfect when all of them are fucking wrong? Well, I say effort, but no one fucking put any into this movie. Anyway, the real Pyroraptor is around the size of a medium dog, and this one is around 1.7 meters or 5.5 feet tall, although the fucking wiki page did that conversion wrong. 3.57 feet is 1.09 meters. I expect nothing less from Jurassic World fans, honestly. But other than the size, the feathers and posturing are reasonably accurate, although its appearance is mostly guesswork because scientists only have a leg and some teeth to go off, which is such little information about it that they're not sure if it's a dromaeosaurid or a nanenlegid. What the fuck? Interestingly enough, its appearance in the movie is based off its dromaeosaurid appearance, but its swimming ability is based off its alternative yanenlegid heritage. Because some fuck it, I'm not attempting to say that shit again. Because some unilaterals were thought to be semi-aquatic, and if you've had the misfortune of sitting through this movie, you'd know that this thing swims. So what this proves to me is that the writers did their research on the Pyroraptor, but still decided to fuck up the size, further proving this is all for spectacle. For fuck's sake. Also, side note, if you're wondering why it's called the Pyroraptor, it's because the only known specimen was found after a forest fire. Anyway, so Owen and Kayla pull out some weapons just in time for the ice to remember it should be fucking shattered after that plane crash, and the raptor dives into the icy cold water. Ignoring the fact that it can swim so efficiently despite its body shape, why the fuck would it dive into the icy cold water when it can just run across the ice? It's not like it was stalking Owen and Kayla without them knowing, or that swimming would get to a more advantageous position to attack. The ice just opens up and it dives in. Maybe it read the script and knew Owen would fall in too. Owen gets pulled out of the water at the last second as the raptor is charging at him like a fish. Like, if this raptor swam, it wouldn't do it like that. At least not without a tail like a Spinosaurus. And instead of his body starting to shut down from shock or hypothermia, he's able to remain completely lucid and even perform mildly impressive acrobatics. This is so unrealistic that even Prime Video Trivia lists him not dying as a fuck up. Also, once again, Colin blesses us with some shitty slow-mo that was completely pointless. Like, ooh, it jumped out of the ice. How cool. Let's make that shot go for 5 fucking years. So of course they make it to the safety of a lift they somehow knew was there, and Kayla low-key hints that she likes women.
I like redheads too.
We now get a brief scene of Lewis finding out about the whole bullshit with Ellie and Alan, and even finds out that Ian gave Ellie a keycard. So much for trying to be sneaky before. Also, if they caught Ian doing that, then how didn't they catch the jacket guy who also helped them? This is followed by a Maisie scene, so you know what that means. Skip. Nah, but as a TLDR, Ellie just yaps about Maisie's mum and how great she was, and then we see fucking Lewis watching her scream before shutting off the Hyperloop train. What kind of bad guy has a name like fucking Lewis anyway? It's so unthreatening. His team also tells him that one of the train pods shut down, like it's a shock. They should know that he's able to do that from his terminal. It's also here where he fires Ian. I feel like he should do more than just that if he's to be at all threatening as a villain, but also because Ian just put the entire company at risk of being shut down and skull-fucked by authorities. Wait, I just realized, why does he want to control all of America's food supply when this sanctuary is in fucking Europe? There's also a super fucking boring argument between fucking Lewis and fucking Ian. That's how I'm gonna refer to them from now on, so get used to it. Fucking Lewis seems bored and fucking Ian pulls out an origami dinosaur from his pocket. I wasn't listening to that argument because it's stupid and ultimately leads to nothing. Whoa, what the fuck? Maybe I should have listened. Are they about to kiss? Should I get my schlong out? Why is fucking Ian even acting like this firing is unfair and stupid? He knew what he was doing was wrong in the eyes of the company. That's like if a vet got mad they were fired for slipping it in a poodle during a life-saving surgery. So like idiots, Alan, Ellie, and Maisie all leave the safety of the pod and enter the old amper mines in what feels like a weird reference to Indiana Jones. And it's revealed they're being followed by something. Why is there even a dinosaur in here? Isn't this place caged off? No time for reasonable questions because Owen and Kayla are walking around in the sanctuary and come across Claire's ejector seat. How didn't they come across any dinosaurs between here and the ice lake? It was a pretty fucking far walk and both them and Claire instantly came across a murder-horny beast within seconds of touching the ground. So you'd think they'd at least cross paths with a herbivore of some kind. Oh wait, never mind. The camera is on them, so of course dinosaurs have to spawn now. And this time it's the T-Rex and the Giga that have a super underwhelming fight over a deer carcass. This is the first time the main characters have come across the Giga in person, and Owen questions if it's an Allosaurus. Like he didn't almost get his life taken by one a few hours earlier. He should know what they look like and that they aren't nearly as big as this. They're also hiding under a log and remain completely undetected by both dinosaurs somehow. As for the accuracy of the Giga, it looks to be a similar size to the T-Rex, which is about accurate. None of the characters brought a tape measure for me to compare how big it actually is, but the wiki says it's 15.5 meters or 50.9 feet in length. Slightly larger than it is in real life, but not by too much. And it weighs around the same as its real life counterpart too. As for its spines, I don't know. They look fucking stupid and likely weren't actually feature of the real-life Giga, but who really knows, given all scientists have to work with are some fucking pieces of hard, calcified tissue that make up the internal structures of vertebrates. What the fuck am I talking about, you may ask? These things. Not too heated about these changes because there'll be plenty of time for me to get fucking pissed about this thing later. Just you fucking wait. Fun fact, when creating this abomination of a filmic presentation, Colin said the Giga is similar to the Joker. Yeah, that fucking Joker. Apparently the Giga just wants to watch the world burn. Did Colin forget that this is a dinosaur and not a mentally deranged children's birthday entertainer? Personally, I can barely tell them apart. Anyway, after that horseshit fight, we're back in the mines. Maisie's here, so I'll make this one quick. Maisie asks if Alan and Ellie have kids together, and they get jumped by a pack of Dimetrodons, aka the most ridiculous and unthreatening dinosaurs ever. They're mostly accurate. They probably didn't hunt in packs and had shorter heads in different scales, but that's it. My biggest issue is how the fuck they managed to sneak up on everyone so quickly and quietly. And why the fuck are there human skulls just lying around? What groups of people are coming down here on a regular enough basis to keep these things well fed? Unless they can make it outside the cave through an exit we're never shown. Also, earlier one of the technicians isn't sure if there are dinosaurs in this cave, but how would they not know that several people have died down here? Hence, there are likely fucking dinosaurs down here. There's another weird Indiana Jones reference with a hat, and Ian arrives just in time to save everyone. Oh yeah, there's also a brief scene of the jacket man helping him get a car. So if he wasn't fired yet, he's definitely fucked now. Also, Maisie has another weirdly cut line. Like, you're just gonna leave that obvious audio error in your multi-million-dollar movie? Okay, Colin. For some reason, this scene is treated with some lighthearted comedy of Ian not knowing the code to the gate and trying to guess it. Like, I guess our main characters and this dude's old friends aren't about to get fucking eaten. Joke away, funny man. Should the jacket man not think it privy enough to tell Ian the fucking code? He clearly knows it because he opens the gate remotely, so fuck this guy. Once again, Colin be out here telling his characters to act stupid because he thinks it makes his movie more engaging. Fucking Colin, you whore. We are absolutely on fire with dinosaur inaccuracies, and this one's particularly egregious. Back with Claire again, and of course, there's a camera pointed at her, so she's about to be attacked by dinosaurs. This time, it's a pack of Dilophosauruses. Also, it's now nighttime. Like, when the fuck did it turn to nighttime? How fucking long has it been? But anyway, I've already made a video on how fucked these things are, and put simply, quite literally everything is wrong. They were in the first Jurassic Park, but you can't even blame their inaccuracy on outdated research because there was no evidence they had these weird frills, and they definitely didn't spit fucking acidic venom at their prey. The frill is reminiscent of that of the frill-necked lizard, and it's used as a deterrent for predators, with the aim to make the lizard look larger and more threatening than it actually is. The acidic spit, on the other hand, is reminiscent of some species of cobras, which is also used as a predator deterrent. The reason I bring this up is because the Dilophosaurus was a fucking apex predator in its ecosystem, and hence would have no reason to have evolved these traits, potentially excluding the frill for use in sexual selection. Other examples of sexual selection include female birds choosing males with more vibrant colors, and female humans avoiding males with extensive Pokemon card collections or an obsession with this franchise. Shockingly, they're actually smaller here than their real-life counterparts, which is a first, but they might as well have just made a completely new dinosaur and named it the Gay Sexodon. But hey, at least they used animatronics. They were probably recycled from the first Jurassic Park, but at least they used them. Just as one is about to perform an unfunny attempt at humor on Claire, Owen comes out of nowhere and fucking chokes one out. Remember, I said everyone had superpowers, so this shouldn't be surprising. I guess he's holding the venom tubes shut so it can't spit. He's also holding its mouth closed so it can't bite him, but they also had sharp as fuck claws, and there were several of them. Then Kayla just tases it in the back of the skull, which, given the power we've seen this thing have, should fry its brain and fucking kill it. Also, weren't there a couple others? Why aren't they also attacking? Their buddies being fucking manhandled and tortured while they watch from the bushes like I do at my ex's house. I'm kidding, of course. She lives in the ocean. Remember their cetacean status? Now we see fucking Lewis as he's looking up some pornography, and he gets interrupted with a notification on his phone saying the locust plague has jumped continents. One news article asks where they came from, like it isn't fucking obviously the people creating new species of prehistoric creatures. And those same people's crops also aren't being eaten. These cunts would have so many warrants out for them, allowing the entire facility to be searched. In response to this, he goes down to the locust room and turns the sprinklers onto fire mode, and then he— Hold on, what the fuck? Why does this room have fucking flamethrowers in it? Assuming he wants to reverse his mistakes, why not keep the alive specimens you have and talk to Henry about creating that deadly virus, and then give it to your specimens before releasing them to cure the planet? To make things worse, this doesn't even kill the locusts, even though it should, and they escape through a hole in the ceiling created by the fire, which results in one of those drone shows you only see on TikTok. Prime Video even says their wings should be burned, so they'd be confined to the ground at the very least. Why is a room with flamethrowers installed on it not resistant to said flamethrowers? Presumably they were added to kill whatever's being stored in there, so the last thing you'd want is for them to be able to escape. Why not just use gas? That isn't destructive, and it's very effective. Also, why does this containment chamber lead straight out into the sky, and how are there this many fucking locusts? The room didn't seem to have that many, but now there's like a million of them. Having achieved their life goal of escaping the containment chamber, the locusts finally start letting themselves succumb to the flames and fall back down to earth, creating a biblical plague of burning locust rain. Just take a moment to think about the fact that this is supposed to be the finale to the Jurassic World trilogy, and we're watching giant bugs fall from the sky whilst on fire. This locust rain actually turns out to be really convenient for the plot because it causes Ian to crash the car and roll down a hill to the exact location of the rest of the cast. Also, of course, everyone in this car is completely fine. Not because of superpowers, but because of the incredible safety of the Jeep that they were driving. No, seriously, what the fuck is this? Why does he fucking die at the end? Is this what ads are like in America? Back to the movie, there's a not so emotional reunion and meeting of the new cast and the old cast just in time for the fucking Giga to rock up, thus prompting the line that essentially started my entire online presence. I would say online career, but yeah, and it's this.
Biggest con
carnivore the world has ever seen.
What the fuck are you talking about, cunt? That is the most factually inaccurate thing this franchise has ever stated. Say whatever you want about genetic alterations of dinosaurs, but in no world would this statement ever be true. The largest carnivore the world has ever seen is the blue whale. People always fucking forget that whales are carnivorous, but they eat krill, which is meat, therefore they are carnivores. Because scientists measure size in terms of weight, and the blue whale can weigh up to 150,000 kilos or 330,000 pounds. This actually leads me back to this scene where Kayla and Owen first came across the giga, where she calls it
Largest known terrestrial carnivore.
and if you want to pretend that's what Alan meant, even though it definitely isn't, the giga is not the biggest terrestrial carnivore, not by length and not by weight or size. That title goes to the Spinosaurus. The giga had a max length of 13 meters or 43 feet and thought to weigh up to 14 tons. The Spinosaurus, on the other hand, measured up to 18 meters or 59 feet and weighed 20 tons. And I can already hear the novellas being typed telling me that the biggest carnivorous dinosaur was actually the T-Rex. And to that I say, Britannica. Also, the wiki says that the Indominus was bigger than the giga, so both Alan and Kayla's statements are even more wrong. This is clearly just a line to put in the trailer, and of course that's exactly what they did. And people wonder why I hate these fucking movies. TLDR for this whole trilogy of videos I've made, I hate Jurassic World predominantly because the movies are fucking ass and are viciously glazed by their fans. And then to make it worse, those same fans decide to plague my fucking comment section with their stupid bullshit about the lore behind the movies whenever I point out that the dinosaurs presented are inaccurate to how they are in real life. Lore that, may I remind you, is never presented explicitly in the movies and requires 40 PhDs and a sprinkle of the tism to know about. Also, because these movies are blockbusters and made to appeal to a wide audience of stupid fuckheads, any incorrect dinosaur depictions or facts like,
Biggest carnivore.
oh, shut the fuck up! Cause general audiences to also plague my comments with their uneducated, smooth-brained dinosaur facts that they learned from these movies. I wouldn't even care that much if the movies were good, which would give me something to enjoy instead of causing me to nitpick every little thing that pisses me off. I don't just hate Jurassic World. I loathe it. I abhor it. I despise it. Anyway, the movie's not done yet, so let's continue. The giga is blind, somehow not seeing anyone when it should have several times, and once again, Colin shows his incompetence at facilitating communication between departments. Prime Video once again had something to say about this. Unlike the Therizinosaurus bit, this scene has absolutely no fucking tension because the giga is so fucking incompetent at seeing anyone that it might as well not even be a threat. There are people right in front of it, and it doesn't even do the yelling at its food thing. It just stares into the distance like it's getting Vietnam flashbacks at Christmas dinner. Doesn't even seem like it can see the people on the ground at all. And this is further evidenced by it only attacking Maisie when she starts climbing a ladder. Like, everyone else is below her, and they're just completely ignored. There's no cage protecting them, it's an easy meal. Also, doing this would put the giga directly above the people on the ground, right in the range of being stomped, but they're all completely fine thanks to plot armor. It's actually crazy that this is supposedly the most dangerous dinosaur we've ever seen in this franchise, and it can't even see people directly in front of it. In fact, it hasn't even killed a single person yet, so why the fuck should we be scared of it? At least the Indominus killed a fuck ton of people and other dinosaurs before finally being taken down. We've seen this thing sleep, have an underwhelming fight with the T-Rex, and have worse eyesight than a pine tree. Also, Macy just freezes when it bites the cage. Like, fucking move. Sure, freeze for a second, but she has the time to register that she's gonna pass away and be given emotional encouragement, so maybe she should get the fuck out of there. Also, this is kind of unrelated, but would she be able to smell the giga's breath here? Barely any time passes, and suddenly everyone's up the ladder. We've seen that the giga can't see you if you're on the ground, so why decide to get to its eye level? Bro, why is this thing so useless? What is it doing? Trying to intimidate them? Is this what Colin meant by watching the world burn? The next shit that happens is straight out of a fucking boss battle. Fucking Ian distracts the giga from the food right in front of it with a burning locust on a stick, meaning it either has crazy ADHD or dropped a fat pinger and is keen for a light show. Then he takes advantage of the food yelling that all dinosaurs do and fucking javelins the locust into its mouth, and then it breathes fire. Like, what the fuck is happening? This is supposed to be a somewhat grounded dinosaur movie. Also, it ate a burning locust before, so why is it only now being hurt by one? I'm sorry if this bit doesn't flow well. I'm trying my fucking best to make this make sense, but there's so much shit happening and it's all so stupid. I just fucking can't. Like, there's the big dumb shit, like the giga not seeing people or becoming a dragon, and there's the little shit, like Ian slipping on the ladder and being caught by Alan. Was Alan already lying down ready to catch him? How did he react so fast? And then everyone takes turns almost getting eaten. First Maisie, then Ian, then Ellie, and now Claire, all within the span of a minute. Why is he just shanking? No, but like, they're right near its mouth. He could just eat them, but I guess I'd prefer to just walk away instead. Back in the control room, fucking Lewis is upset he started a gigantic forest fire, and he either has a spaz attack or just heard a sick drop from his favorite DJ. I can't really tell, but he decides to call an evacuation and call all the dinosaurs into the main center area of the facility using those brain implants from before. This seems like a fucking terrible idea. Firstly, the dinosaurs are all going to be cramped with each other and either start fighting to the death or severely damage property. Secondly, do the dinosaurs walk the most direct route? If so, that could be through fire, thus putting them in more danger. Like, these dinosaurs here seem like they'd be fine. They're in the middle of the water. Also, I feel like if we saw this scene before the giga walked away randomly, its departure would have made way more sense. Also, calling a state of emergency now is like calling a full school lockdown 15 minutes after the school shooter killed himself. Although I guess that is a thing that happens in America, so never mind. But enough of me trying to find some logic in Jurassic World Dominion. It's time for the best line in the movie.
Can't get hold of anybody since everything is on fire.
Also, here the main cast talk about how they all know each other, so there's no need for meaningful development of character relationships. Colin's cosmic and mega brain astounds me still.
Jurassic World? Not a fan.
Fucking real, Ian. Out of pure respect for that hot take, I'm reverting his name from fucking Ian to just Ian. Together, they turn a plan to turn the ADS system on and steal a helicopter to escape. Conveniently, all the outposts are connected by underground tunnels. Also, side note, the quality of this movie has significantly declined here, which is impressive that it dropped from horse shit to, I don't know, whale shit, I guess. But this is the point of the movie that my girlfriend and I considered leaving, but my fury at the film and pure determination to have a holistic hatred was just too strong, so I persevered. If you're interested, which I don't know why you would be, I received pleads and occasional beatings in an attempt to get me to leave when they rescued Baby Blue. Also, Jacket's name is Ramsey. I'm just now learning that. For some reason, Ellie comforts Claire about her regrets regarding Jurassic World, but Claire should absolutely not be comforted for allowing so many people to be killed by not calling an evacuation. But then she breaks the fourth wall and reads the audience's mind.
Nobody said there'd be bugs.
The rest of this scene is fucking annoying, so we're gonna skip it again. But what's important is it results in the Hyperloop carriage that fucking Lewis is in becoming unpowered, which ultimately leads to... Kinda anticlimactic that the protagonist didn't even get to see him face to face. Like, he's responsible for bringing them all here and causing them to risk their lives, and they don't even get to mog him like Ramsey does. How did the dildos even get in the tunnel? Why did Lewis even bother leaving the pod instead of waiting for the system to reboot? No, it doesn't really matter. Although I would say this is the most deserved death of a villain in this franchise. Bro's bullshit could have killed billions of people, and who knows how many it could have already killed. Hey, you wanna see something cringe?
Hey! Eyes on me.
Metro Boomin, make it boom.
Suddenly, Henry Wu appears and explains his shit about spreading some weird DNA infection to all the locusts in a similar way to Maisie's mum. But like, the locusts aren't all genetically identical, are they? If they are and they're breeding, then the offspring would be violently deformed. Fuck, they'd all be the same gender, so they wouldn't even be able to breed. Also, Maisie was cloned by her mum. What applications does that have in this scenario anyway? It totally could have been explained before, but it was a Maisie scene, so I had to skip it. Oh well. How the fuck does Kayla not see the dinosaurs in the center circle thing? She narrowly avoids a sauropod's head, as if she needs to be told the dinosaurs aren't in the valley anymore. Also, if it's so dangerous to land there, why does everyone run outside? I guess it's so we can have this shot that looks like the logo. You may be surprised to hear this, but I actually don't mind this shot. It's a kind of cool idea. What isn't a cool idea, however, is getting all the dinosaurs into one much smaller area than they were in before. They're bound to fucking kill each other. They even said that before, and that was in reference to the whole sanctuary. So of course the T-Rex and Giga engage in battle. This time much less lame than the last time, but it's still just special effects ramming into each other. Also, didn't the T-Rex get absolutely shit on last time? How is it able to hold its own relatively well here? Sure, it needs help from the Theory later, but it ran away like a pussy last time. Is this supposed to be some sort of dinosaur revenge? Also, why don't they use the brain things to make all the dinosaurs stand still for like 10 minutes so everyone has time to escape and they can duke it out later? Or are the implants only able to make them slowly walk to a different location? Oh fuck man, I don't care. Why the fuck do characters insist on staying in the most dangerous places possible when they could easily just move their fucking asses? But before anyone can get what they deserve for being brain dead, Kayla takes advantage of the Giga's ADHD and shoots a flare to distract it. But what actually ends up happening is the Giga sees the Theory and decides to murder it instead of the main characters. Did Kayla see the Theory and notice what happened? It's not in any of the wide shots when it definitely should be. Did she know the Giga was easily distractible? Is there such thing as dinosaur Adderall? Anyway, so everyone flies off and the Joker dinosaur gets dicked on in another lame fight. Then finally, the movie begins to end. Henry has a broken arm, Ian and Ramsey give statements about Biosyn to some reporter or something, and Ellie and Alan share a very undeserved and awkward kiss. I guess like the last day or two they've spent together has really made them fall in love. Hey, look at this green screen. Man, I wish Washington was a real place so they could film on location. We see this as a dramatic news report yaps about more fucking legal actions and court hearings in a movie about dinosaurs. Henry also releases another locust into the wild for shits and giggles. Kayla gets her plane back, somehow. I wouldn't think those things are legal to make, let alone be able to be made anymore. I'd campaign to get a brand new C-130 or something, but that's just me. Claire, Owen, and Maisie deliver Beta back to Blue, who, for a raptor who can understand complex concepts, is extremely ungrateful. Be honest, would you really be surprised if Blue made noises that heavily sounded like a human saying thank you? Because I know I wouldn't. And the movie finally wraps up with Charlotte Lockwood, aka Maisie's mom, yapping about shit that doesn't make sense. It's just par for the course for these movies by now, and this is intercut with dinosaurs in the wild, just perfectly assimilating with other animals of a similar nature, like parasaurs and horses, pterosaurs with birds, and most ridiculously, the mosasaur with whales. Ignore the fact they're not at all similar in terms of what role they fill in their environments. This is supposed to be a fulfilling moment. And fulfilling it is, because with that, the movie, and by extension, this whole trilogy, this whole nightmare is over. And holy fuck, what a relief. These movies have been plaguing my mind for years now, and to finally be done talking about them is like a weight lifted off my chest. I can finally be happy. Also, as a disclaimer, I am likely not done with talking about these movies. I'm sure there'll be plenty of occasions in the future where it will be mentioned. Also, there's apparently a fourth one in the works. I sincerely hope it never comes out, but you can be sure I'll rant about it if and when it does. As I summarized before, I hate this franchise mostly because the movies are terrible. Remember that I didn't receive any annoying comments about the franchise before I watched Dominion. They just added to my hatred after the fact. It's also really good for farming engagement. Hate comments are still comments after all. The first movie in retrospect is honestly actually not that bad. There's some decent action, and the idea of a genetically modified monster trying to find its place in the food chain is a pretty interesting idea and something we'd never seen before. I still think the design of the Indominus was really good, and it worked as a main dinosaur antagonist. Sure, there was some dumb shit like the raptors in the army subplot, but it was entertaining enough for me to not care a whole lot. I actually look back on the movie almost fondly now. But then you move to the second movie, and it's just 3 different movies crammed into one. You got the disaster movie first with the volcano island, then after that the quality significantly declines with the dinosaur auction before the quality slightly increases again with the horror movie starring a dinosaur hybrid. Speaking of that dinosaur, the Indoraptor felt very uninspired, and like it was trying to replicate the intrigue of the Indominus. And then when that didn't work, they just went with locusts instead. Sure, Dominion felt more focused than its predecessor, but more focused on a boring plot about mutant bugs. It went from long periods of characters talking about stupid shit to long periods of characters doing stupid shit. Like you had the beginning with Maisie wanting freedom when that could be risking her life, and everything with Franklin and the French guy. Then after Malta, it's just basically non-stop dinosaur action with no tension, with the exception of the Theory bit, because the main characters are invincible. But then after the first main Giga encounter, the plot slows right down again with Blue's baby in the server room. And this throws the pacing right off, because we go from one extreme to another in an instant, and there's no build up to the action either. The dinosaurs show up and just as quickly fuck off when the plot needs them to. The Quetzalcoatlus appears as soon as the ADS system is shut off, and then just fucks off after destroying the plane, never to be seen again. The Giga just appears from the forest, is blind, and then fucks off because it decided that some humans heard it too much or something. That's actually why I think the Theory bit worked, because Claire and the audience both knew that her landing in the sanctuary would surely mean a dinosaur encounter, and it's for something we've never seen before. Ignoring the scientific inaccuracies, it looks horrifying and kills a deer just for existing. Combined with some nice camera work with the long takes and forced perspective, creates a really tense environment. And then we have the Giga, the supposed main antagonistic dinosaur of this movie, and it had no fucking presence. We know nothing about it, unlike the Indominus and Indoraptor. Like we were told the Indominus ate its sibling and did all this fucked shit before we even met it properly. Then it was a constant threat to both the two boys and Claire and Owen throughout the movie. We also had some scenes reinforcing how dangerous it was, such as the dying Apatosaurus bit, where we learned it was killing for sport, and when it fucking wiped an entire SWAT team with very little effort. The Indoraptor was a bit less like that, but at least it killed several people as soon as it escaped its cage. The Giga had one shit fight with the T-Rex, was blind and stupid around the main cast, then died by getting stabbed by a herbivore. Do I need to explain further? And then there's the removed opening 10 minutes bit I mentioned before, where a Giga completely dominates a T-Rex in a fight. That would have given us something and shown that the franchise has moved on from the classic T-Rex threat. I also still refuse to believe that Colin planned for this the whole time. The trilogy started with genetically altering dinosaurs and like a low-key theme of them being used in the military. And then the trilogy ends with global domination via giant bugs and dinosaurs being all around the planet thanks to a failed auction. It could have maybe made sense if they'd set it all up, but it fully just comes out of nowhere. But maybe the 4th installment will make more sense. I guess we'll potentially maybe never know sometime in the future. If you're watching this as my video is released, I apologize for how long I went without uploading. I wanted to make both part 2 and part 3 at the same time, but then release them a week out from each other as a nice surprise. And based off the length of the 2 videos, I'm sure you can see why it took a while. I plan to return to a somewhat consistent upload schedule after this. I actually deferred from uni while writing these as well, so there's that. I can't believe that's not the first time this has happened. I did it during my iceberg video too. As much as I bitched and moaned about these movies, the process of writing them was actually kind of fun, and I would like to continue to talk about shitty animal movies every now and then. But for now, I'll stick with animals. I'm not too keen on YouTube's copyright policy, which actually reminds me, I'd usually ask you to not like, subscribe, or comment and say something about how I want to be irrelevant forever. And while that may be humorous or a subversion of what you're used to at the end of YouTube videos, I'm gonna have to request the opposite now. Embarrassing, I know. But I kind of want to do this for a job, so any support you can give helps me a lot there. Also, kind of related to that, you may have noticed I censored my swearing for the first few minutes. That's just to avoid any potential demonetization in the future. If they watch the rest of the video, I'm completely fucked though. I also have a Patreon if anyone is interested. I don't have much there at the moment, but I plan to add more as time goes on. It's of course optional, but still very appreciated. The link will be in the description along with my other bullshit. But with that, I'm like low-key sad to conclude my Jurassic World trilogy, a series I started with my first proper video in October last year, back when I still had to use my shitty headphone mic to record audio on my laptop, back when I thought that 10,000 words was a lot. It was absolutely miserable while it lasted, and after long writing sessions, I was visibly in a bad mood from how shit these movies are. For anyone interested, these last 2 videos are 39,000 words combined, with this one taking the bulk at 23,000. And the worst part is, there's still more stuff I could have said. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on whatever other video I decide to do next. Hey, extremely unlikely, but does anyone here go to any HSU events like Knockout or Epic or anything? I highly doubt it, but I'm gonna be going to every single one of them, and I'll be wearing a propeller hat if you wanted to come find me. Word of warning, I am not gonna be sober, I am going to be absolutely gassed.